Hello, welcome to the New Stack Makers, where we talk about at-scale application development, deployment, and management. Thank you for joining us. It's PagerDuty Summit here in San Francisco. It's muggy, but to me, let me tell you, it's beautiful. It's always beautiful for me here at the Embarcadero. We're at Pier 27, covering the events here at PagerDuty Summit. The theme here is Ops Reimagined. Notice I didn't say DevOps Reimagined, but Ops as in short for Operations Reimagined. How are we streamlining operations processes to make it possible for development teams and operation teams to collaborate and deliver better value to the customers? This edition of the New Stack Makers is sponsored by PagerDuty, maker of the Digital Operations Management Platform. DOM combines incident management with machine learning and advanced analytics to empower operations teams to respond to their networks and their applications before things go wrong. Download the 2017 State of Digital Operations Report now and see how IT operations teams stack up against the expectations of their customers at PagerDuty, PagerDuty.com. From Pier 27 at the Embarcadero in San Francisco, good afternoon, I'm Scott Fulton here at PagerDuty Summit, and we've got the people who brought us here. Jennifer Tejada, the CEO of PagerDuty, is here with us, fresh from her keynote. Jennifer, good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Good morning.
It's delightful that we're here on a somewhat muggy day, but it's always beautiful here. And you picked up a wonderful locale to bring everybody here to talk about your main theme, Ops Reimagined. And I noticed you didn't say DevOps Reimagined. You said Ops Reimagined. And I'm really curious to hear more about this. We brought our New Stack colleague TC Curry here with us. Hi, TC.
Good afternoon, good morning. It's almost afternoon.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So tell me, why reimagining ops necessarily? Why operations?
Sure, I think it's really in response to us observing across our customers, across industries, whether you're in e-commerce or finance or shipping or manufacturing, et cetera, we're seeing demonstrative transformational change in every single business model out there. So much of that is driven by new technology that's available to people, the cloud, big data, mobile, but also changing customer expectations, the demand for convenience, and in some cases convenience is even more important than performance or price. We are in a real-time world where people expect everything to work perfectly, and they don't frankly care why it doesn't, when it doesn't. They just understand that they're not getting what they want, that they don't receive the service they believe they are paying or trading their information for. And so we see operations as becoming far more pervasive from both a technical perspective and an orchestration perspective and a delivery of customer experience perspective. Bringing all those things together means you have to break down traditional barriers, be them silos between disciplines and functions, geographical barriers between teams, or the functional barriers between what do the technology people do versus what do the business people do. And we hear that a lot. We heard Adrian Cockcroft this morning talk about his experience at Netflix. And Netflix is a really unique company where the business model is super holistic, where everybody is focused on delivering product. And there is no division between your technical and engineering community, your product community, and your sales and marketing community. It's all one. But most companies don't start out that way. Most companies do not have the benefit of, or have had the foresight to build in such a modern paradigm. And as such, they've got to figure out how to not only respond, but proactively manage issues and challenges as they happen in real time.
Most companies don't have the luxury of being able to invent their business model or having the opportunity to do that. You had to do that with Netflix. You brought these people in, and essentially what they said, we're going to drive 2/3 of the traffic on the web with video, so have at it. Nobody else gets that opportunity. Most of the people who you're going to be working working with here today are folks who have to reinvent their business models. And frankly, that's been going on for 30 years. I've heard about transformational change in digital transformation, if you will, for about 3 decades, and for maybe as long as I've heard about the coming of climate change. I'm wondering whether we finally tipped that certain critical mass when we can finally, as a majority of businesses, say, okay, we get it now. It's actually time for that transformational change that you were talking about since UNIVAC.
We definitely have. It reminds me of, for years, everybody talks about it being the year of mobile.
Right.
And I think last year might have been the year of mobile. I'm not sure. But to your point, transformation is not new, and the need to reinvent yourself is not new. I think what's different this time around. Yeah, exactly. I think what's different now is the pace of change, right? And the diversity of change. And what's driven that critical mass is the number of companies that now rely on digital omni-channel assets to derive their revenue. Period. If your top line and your bottom line come from a digital environment, a digital ecosystem, your world has changed, whether you're talking about the front-end user experience and how you mix between the virtual and the physical world, or the back-end technology experience where you might have 20-year-old infrastructure supporting via APIs, brand new spanking technology and using video to sell, right? I remember when people told us, you'll be able to watch TV on your phone one day, and we thought they were idiots because the speeds and the bandwidth were not there to convince us that that was ever going to be a possibility, that you'd ever have that kind of experience. I can't remember the last time I turned on a TV. Anytime I view most of the time I view something, it's on a plane anyway, but anytime I'm viewing something, it's on a personal device. And my 12-year-old daughter, that's all she knows. The TV is a superfluous, dusty appliance in the corner now. And so the world has changed, but the way we think about operations has not changed. And that's really the signal that we're trying to drive into people's minds today. That, for one, waiting to get a signal from a person or a ticket that something is wrong is way too late. By the time someone has gone to the trouble of making a call to customer support or raised a ticket, customers are burning, employee productivity is going down. When we can capture machine data directly from the machine and know ahead of customer impact or employee impact that something is going wrong, why would you lengthen the distance between A and B?
CC.
So is that the reason that you started your professional services division, which you just announced in the keynote, so that you can help companies not just install PagerDuty, but really start to understand how they need to restructure their response to an incident?
Adrian alluded to this a little. When you start talking to a large organization about facilitating their transformation by leveraging DevOps culture, by leveraging modern tool chains, they sort of look at you and go, oh my God, where do I start? Right? Because we're talking about a major financial undertaking, an organizational and behavioral undertaking. I mean, cultural transformation at a minimum usually takes people 3 years, right? So it started with people kept asking us for help. And it came in different forms. Sometimes they'd ask us, like, our engineering team is very well respected. We are highly resilient, highly available all the time. We have very happy culture. We attract phenomenal engineers. And people would say, how are you doing it? What's the secret? What's your special sauce? A big part of it is DevOps, enablement, empowerment, truth, transparency, no blame, enable people to do their best work. No command and control, no gates, right? And another thing that they would ask us for, like, how do I run an efficient incident command? Your incident commanders seem to be really good at our jobs. We role-played one today, but Rachel is actually one of our new incident commanders. She's certified, she's trained. The whole world can be shutting down, and Rachel is as calm and cool as you just saw her. So professional services for us was really just a way for us to meet the demand of our customers asking for help in ways related to the transformation they were undertaking to deliver on their business goals.
You, during the keynote, you had one of your major themes was to look out for the signals before the ticket actually begins, to have more signal awareness, if you will. And I can imagine a lot of folks in the audience are probably thinking, okay, that sounds really good, but what is she talking about? Is she talking about an analytics system that can predict occurrences before they happen? Is she talking about key performance indicators? And if she is, what type of performance signals should I be looking for? There are a lot of folks who are very sensitive to the need to be looking out for these signals. And when they start to pursue that, they can see everything in the world as a potential signal. This could be wrong, this could be wrong.
Very noisy.
OMG, it becomes very noisy. How do we apply a filter to that? How do we filter it down to the signals that we need to be paying attention
Absolutely.
to?
So signal and event explosion is a really common challenge amongst our customers. The more things you can instrument and track and integrate to, the harder it becomes to find the signal in the noise. It's like a needle in a haystack. And what I would tell you is that we're applying both leading indicators and lagging indicators to help people make more sense out of their signal consolidation, right? So it starts with integrating in a common way to all of these applications and services so that all the signals come in a common event format. That means that we can run rapid analytics over them. Those analytics enable us to do a couple of things. One, see patterns. Certain events fail at the same time all the time together, right? Number two, certain events that you see, if they storm with other events, become major incidents. So that's a proactive signal. That's a leading indicator. You start to see an event storm from certain services, we know that that storm is going to become something bigger. So if you can get out in front of it sooner and be more proactive, you may be able to reduce that customer impact. The other thing is, similar events often arise over and over again, but the average person doesn't recognize that pattern, that similarity. So the ability to know that when something pops up, actually we've seen that before. And the last time this happened, here's how bad it was, here's what you did to fix it, here's the person who got on it, right? So being able to recognize something immediately, and instead of reinventing fire every time a problem arises, you actually go to the solve very quickly. And that's one of the things I mean when I say moving from signal directly to action. And then the last thing is starting to consolidate and correlate signals against context. So a really good example is storm hits, data center goes down, stuff starts failing. The first thing you want to do is get to root cause. Is it the data center? Is it the app? Great, it's the data center. Now I've got 13 apps failing as a result of their reliance on the data center. Which apps matter? Well, are you looking at public sentiment? Can you see the Twitter feed? Are tickets being raised? What's the inbound call volume to customer support? Which issue is the most impactful to our customers, both negatively and positively? And how do I triage that one first? So triage is exactly that. You know, go to the where the pain needs you most, right? And machine learning enables us to, one, turn the volume down on noisy signals that don't matter as much, recognize events that are similar so that we can predict certain behaviors, and then also recognize patterns that we've seen before, that we've solved before, so we can automatically apply a solve that we know works, right? In the future, I'd like to see us get to a place where we're auto-remediating more effectively, and where we're also automating, beyond the post-mortem and the learning, the design of the failure out into the next release, right?
Yeah, I was talking with Rachel Osler last week about...
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's fabulous. And I was so excited to hear that you're doing machine learning now and you're folding that in. The other thing that I've been covering machine learning and AI for about a year now, and the thing that fascinates me the most, well, probably not the most, but you never lose history.
Yep.
And people in DevOps move a lot.
They do.
And so when someone solves 3 incidents in a row and then they take a new job and they're gone, you've lost that. But with machine learning, you have that history.
So the interesting thing about machine learning and artificial intelligence is those capabilities are only as good as the data set they sit upon, right? And so you need data engineers and data scientists that, one, can identify meaningful data sets, 2, prepare those data sets, and then 3, build a model that learns to ask the right questions. It's not as simple as it sounds. And PagerDuty for 8 years has been collecting information across 3 major data sets. One is around people, our responders, the people who have certain skill sets, certain capabilities, and are able to respond to certain things regardless of what company they're in or what their title is. 2 is around workflows. Which workflows work the best for which kinds of problems and opportunities? And which part of the workflows can we continue to focus on automating in the future? And then lastly is the event and signal database, where I truly believe that over time, events will become our path to automation because they show us the way to make better decisions, to make faster decisions, to automate the decision, and to move the person on to the kind of rich work that only a human can do. So it's a great example of how artificial intelligence, machine learning can move us forward, but also create a better world for the worker, the employee, the engineer themselves. Because right now they do a lot of task rabbiting across the process.
This is what I'm excited to watch over the next year, is because you roll out the machine learning capabilities, and it's going to take a little while for the machine to learn a little bit, but then it frees people up, just to your point, that frees people up to start looking ahead.
Yeah.
And so they're not always throwing themselves on grenades, as was mentioned in the keynote. And it's like when you're not throwing yourself on a grenade and you're not living at this stress level, what can you do then?
Amazing.
Right.
You can build a better service. You can innovate faster. You can push something into production that you've been wanting to try but haven't had the time to, right? So it really is about improving the quality of life and work for our practitioners while improving business results and customer outcomes for the companies they work with. And one of the things that makes me feel extremely fortunate to be in this role is we have a community that actually cares, that's vocal, that gives us input, that points out opportunities to us, that lets us know when we disappoint them, right? But because they all subscribe to DevOps culture, they're truthful, they're transparent, but they're not mean and spiteful. There are no haters in our community platform, and we all want the same thing. We all want to progress and move forward together. And so a lot of innovation, I think, through our machine learning will come from ideas in our practitioner community. And it's why we've launched the PagerDuty community platform today, because it's a place where you can come not just to ask us anything, but to tell us anything. You don't like the color green we're using? Fine. You'd like to solve a specific problem that no one else is solving for you? Awesome. I just had a conversation downstairs with a couple of gentlemen that are experimenting with a really interesting integration to another application between PagerDuty and that application to try and automate a substantial chunk of a very people-intensive process. And he's like, hey, it's not where it needs to be. I'd love help. I'm like, come into the office. We want to talk. Like, that's how we get better. Tech companies do not come up with great ideas. They take their customers' problems and find ways to apply technology to solve them. The ideas come from the customer.
Alex Solomon was here
one of my
earlier
favorite
this morning.
people.
One of your favorite people for certain. And he also spoke to the need to bring data scientists into the organization in order to make sense of the patterns that machine learning tools are uncovering. And pointed the way to the possibility that within organizations, different organizations may have individual fingerprints, if you will. The patterns for an organization may not apply to any other pattern. For that reason, you might need a data scientist to be able to make sense of
Absolutely.
that. And so it brings to mind the realization that here we are, we've already blended developers and operations into one team. And as some other conferences will have noted, that we've taken security engineers and we've injected them into the picture. So in some organizations we have DevSecOps, and now we're talking about bringing data scientists into the picture. Yeah. Do we have DevSec data ops, or do we just bring all the entire organization together on one big picnic table? How do we integrate everybody's roles into one collective pool and still have individual roles and individual jobs?
It's a great question. So we have a data operations organization, and they help us with things like data structuring and service architecture around the application stacks that serve the different employees in the business. And I'll give you a non-technical example. Our marketing team focuses on customer acquisition. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, PagerDuty has a direct e-commerce model. So many of our customers come to us because they have a problem, they go online and they search for an answer, they start a trial, and they swipe their credit card. And often they are using their personal email address, not even a business email address, to get started. They want to get started with the product, they want to get to know it, they want to integrate some of their systems, monitor some of their services they're responsible for, and then we see they start to add their teams. Data science has an amazing application here because we're starting to try and learn what are the motions and the movements that our prospects and our customers make in that trial process. Where in their initial customer experience is there opportunity and pain? What are the use cases that matter most? So for instance, we know that a lot of our customers start with us when they're moving a new workload to the cloud. Which point in that process are they engaging? Should we engage sooner? Should we engage differently? One thing I can tell you is engineers do not want to be sold to. They just want to get hands on your product and buy it. And so the marketing team has a data science opportunity to look at the high velocity top end of our acquisition funnel, understand customer experience, but then also share that experience with our product team who design the customer experience, the UX, right? So there's a tight integration between marketing and acquisition and product and customer experience, from acquisition to activation to retention, right? I've not mentioned an engineer yet. That is modern business. So coming back to PagerDuty, we're managing the people and the workflows in that platform. So a great example of using PagerDuty for opportunity is setting up monitoring against web traffic. We know web traffic is a leading indicator of potential acquisition and prospecting. When web traffic moves dynamically, faster or slower, higher or lower than we expect it to, I want someone in marketing on that in the moment. Either making hay while the sun shines, suddenly we're getting a lot of traffic because the new stack is talking about us, right? Or traffic slowed down as something happened in the competitive environment, something wrong with the trial, the product. We need to get on that immediately. Gone are the days when you wait a week for the report to tell you what happened. It's over, right? You can't wait for that report. So we're talking about real-time response, proactive activity to drive opportunity into action, but also respond to stuff that you can't plan for. And that can happen anywhere in the business.
And this is, again, where machine learning comes in.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you can set the machine to watch this whole process for you and then give it to the data scientists, like, what's happening, where
you should work for us. You're good at this.
So, you talked about engineers not wanting to be sold to, and that's a point that I've heard you make before, even including before your time at PagerDuty. You've said that that more and more the software developer is the person who is having more responsibility for the procurement of new technology, and to some extent you want to sell more and more to that person. If that's the case, then does it become the software developer's duty to try to find a way to sell that idea to the very people you just said don't want to be sold stuff to? Or does the development team contact the marketing team on the phone and say, hey, I need to get in touch with somebody in engineering because we got to sell them on this because we got to move forward?
I think it starts with us. It's our responsibility to build products and services that solve problems, period. And that we make it easy for our developers, our engineers to find us and try us. We make it seamless and frictionless. I mean, to be honest, I don't like to be sold to. I walk into a store, and the rare occasion that I actually go to a store anymore, and I am sniper shooting.
Hands up,
I am
listeners.
in and out.
Who wants to be sold to?
Yes,
Anyone
nobody.
out there?
Nobody.
Looking at you.
So it's really about it's my responsibility, it's our company's responsibility to remove the friction between the solution to a problem that our practitioners have, period. And then the next thing is to help those practitioners, those developers, developers articulate the business case. I asked Adrian, what's the business case for DevOps? Nicole Forsgren's going to be with us this afternoon to talk about the business case for DevOps. Why do you think I'm asking that question? Well, it's fine when 100 developers swipe their credit card and start using your product. When a couple 10,000 developers start doing it, the head of IT of a large public company, the CFO start to notice, and they want to understand what's all the rage. Whether it's Slack and it's grown virally in your business, or it's PagerDuty and it's grown team by team by team, they want to understand what we're paying, what is the value we're getting. And in that case, then the responsibility lies with us to support the development community to help them articulate that business case. And the business case is pretty straightforward. One, automation. Automation removes costs. You can free up people who are doing menial manual tasks to do more important work. Number two is better decisions that get to more revenue and less revenue risk, better mitigation of legal and liability risks associated with things not working the way they're supposed to. We have customers that have contractual agreements to keep their products and services running and available all the time. And when they don't work, they pay negative SLA fees in the millions of dollars, right, when that doesn't work. So imagine a water plant in San Francisco goes down because the technology sitting behind it doesn't work. Someone is going to pay for that. So really helping our development community articulate the business case in language the business understands. Super important. And it's also where I think taking a holistic approach to digital operations management in general is as much about lexicon and bringing people together around common metrics and common outcomes as it is about platform and workflow and technology, right? And it's why I believe there's a lot we can take from DevOps and teach the business so that the business can improve. And by the business, I mean everybody else who isn't an engineer, which in most companies is at least half the company. Usually more if you're not talking about the tech industry.
So in this reimagined organization whose picture you're painting for us, you have software developers who are doing more of the strategy articulation.
They're leading the charge.
Who then in this new picture signs off on the strategy, and who in this new organization executes that strategy?
It's a mix from one company to the next. The more distributed power is in the organization, the more frequently we see the sign off and the ownership at the individual level or the team level. And I mean, you heard this is how AWS does things. I've heard Andy talk and Jeff Bezos talk about trying to make it easier to get to yes. Right? That's all about removing gates and barriers. It's all about removing friction and trusting your people to do their very best work, empowering them and resourcing them to do their very best work. So we're absolutely seeing a trend where developers are able to buy and access tool chains and applications at their whim to a certain point. When it reaches critical mass, we do start to see then senior leaders take notice and want to understand. Ultimately, the buck stops with the CEO. I'm responsible for our strategy. I'm equally responsible for our outcomes. When things go wrong, I'm responsible for it. And when things go right, everybody else was responsible for it, right? I mean, that's the nature of the job. But I do think that the power to make a decision to execute on a new strategy is distributing in a way it never has. The world of command and control is becoming a thing of the past. That's in the rear view window. And leaders have to change their behavior to truly and entrust and empower the brilliant individuals we work so hard to hire and develop and retain. And even for me, someone who's been at this for 25 years, started my career at Procter & Gamble, which very much has a top-down command and control structure, I've had to become a full-time learner, a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. That growth mindset of not thinking of knowledge as a static thing and thinking of intellect as something you can build like a muscle is critical to my success as a leader, to our team's success as a leader, and frankly, we're learning that from the engineering and the development community. They're leading that charge, and that's why so much of my message today was about like, hey, step into your role. You have this phenomenal, wonderful, unique opportunity to step to the front of your organization and show them how to do something that we know works. Like, get on it. Now's your chance.
The great Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, and I cited her in my discussion with Alex earlier, had a wonderful way of envisioning change. She used to say, it's important to picture change from what to what. Where is your starting point and where is your objective? We've seen transformation in the direction that you've painted for, since the beginning of time now. And we're still essentially on this journey. Do you foresee a time in the near future where we will be able to say the journey we have envisioned for transformation of these organizations is effectively complete? And if we are there, if we get to that point, do we start yet another journey?
I don't know that we're ever truly finished, particularly in the tech industry, because we're starters, right? Just when you invent something and it kind of makes it to stasis, you find a newer, better way. So it's more of a constant evolution than a start and an end, in my view. And the question is, when do we derive benefit from that evolution? I already personally derive benefit from the evolution of digital omni-channel services available all the time, real time. I hosted my 24-person family for Thanksgiving and never went to a grocery store. That is the derivation of benefit if I've ever seen it, right? And so it's about how do we speed the time to capture that benefit, right? And how do we place a value on time? I actually think that time is becoming our most valuable currency, and we continue to sort of ignore it or not listen to the voice in the back of our heads that says, like, oh my God, you can replace things. You can replace technology. You cannot replace time. You don't get time back. And the way we use it, the way we leverage it, the way we respect and honor other people's time is becoming increasingly more important. So it's about how quickly can you derive value from this evolution that we're in. It's about what Adrian talked about, like having that, gopher up on the plane, looking out at the horizon, try and see what's around the next corner, not just to be ready for it, to potentially own it. And I see a point in time where we derive huge benefit from the seamless orchestration of signals, machine learning, and people, so that everything runs smoothly, but we learn in that process, and we get better and better with each moment. And those people who used to spend a lot of time fixing stuff, right, and triaging stuff, are spending time building stuff, inventing stuff that makes your life better, makes my life better, and again, feeds that value derivation cycle.
There's just been such an extraordinary shift in the last 10 years. I mean, I've been writing about this is the year of the 10th year anniversary. Twitter is 10 years old. The iPhone came out 10 years ago. And what so many jobs that are happening right now were not available, were not even imagined, were not even conceptualized 10 years ago. And so to your point about, is there ever a time when we say, okay, we've figured out what the endpoint is, and here it is, and
mission accomplished.
Right. it's you just create a new endpoint. It's like, okay, now we're standing on a different plateau. It's like the bear went over the mountain, right?
I think
You're on a new mountain.
A new future.
Exactly.
Right? It's not like you're not creating the end, you're creating the next beginning. And to me, that's why I love the tech industry. It's by definition a culture of innovation. And you're going to be more rewarded for asking for forgiveness in many cases than permission. And
Right.
the first technology founder I worked for said something that stuck with me for a very long time. He said, "You won't see the skid marks when we go off the cliff." And I think there's something to be said for just going for it. Elon Musk is not looking for an end. He's not ever going to be finished. He's going to constantly be innovating and trying to change the world. And I'm never done. I'm not the youngest person hanging around the tech industry right now, but there's still, I think, a lot of value that I can create, right? Through the benefit of having access to wonderfully bright, talented people and science becoming applicable to big problems. And as with every new evolution, a new set of problems comes. So we'll always be busy.
Right.
There's going to be no shortage of stuff to do, problems to solve.
So if that's the case, then does the 2 what part of Barbara Jordan's equation, if we can't really answer that, does that become less important?
I think it's important that you have a vision, but it's more important that you know that that vision is a living, breathing, evolving thing. So I often will educate my team or work with a customer by saying, here's how things are today. Here's how they could be. Imagine what the benefits would look like if they could be like this. And then here's the path in between A and B. And we're here to help you get there, right? Or with our employees, I'm here to help you get there, or our team is here to help you get there. I think the critical thing is that that once you get there, we'll already have mapped out the next point in the journey, right? And so I wonder sometimes if we spend too much time thinking about the destination, because the journey is where all the fun is. Right? I mean, the journey, I think of as my memories as a kid in a family with a lot of kids in the back of the station wagon.
Right.
I don't always remember the destination where we actually went to. I remember the ride. Right. I remember, backseat bingo and pulling my brother's hair and the stuff, the weird places we stopped along the way. And I think that's part of the richness of life, is to not forget to enjoy the moment.
So we've just learned that the CEO of PagerDuty pulled her brother's hair and probably, as we speak during the journey, plays backseat bingo.
And not while driving, of course.
Not while driving. Do not do this at home.
No, I am a natural troublemaker. I'll admit it.
So where can folks watching us out here learn more about what's going on at PagerDuty Summit
There
today?
are so many places to learn more. So we usually make all of the content from our summits available in a virtual summit in the future. So if you missed today, there will be opportunities through our website, pagerduty.com, to see some of the content that we presented today. We're also in the midst of an 8-city roadshow, and we're coming next to Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, Toronto, and London. We have a community platform where you'll have access to write-ups, blogs, ideas, chats about different things, different subjects that we've discussed today, and the ability to ask our speakers anything. So if something you heard, or if you feel like you missed, you want to know the answer to, you can go on the community and ask us anything. And then finally, we've actually released a new version of our website today that makes it easier to find customer success stories and case studies, capture learnings from your peers, find your way to the community, understand our solution, and you can always drop by. I mean, we love visitors. I'm like a kid from the Midwest. Like, you don't even have to bring banana bread, just show up. We're at 600 Townsend on the second floor, here in Soma. And we recently opened offices in Sydney and in London. We have an office in Seattle, and we have over 100 engineers and some salespeople in Toronto. So we're pretty easy to find. We'd love to see people, and we're a very open community. So we want to hear about your best ideas.
But if you have banana bread, that does help.
The banana bread will get you to me faster, for sure.
Jot that down. Jennifer Tejada, CEO of PagerDuty, thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Scott. So nice to see you, TC. Thank you very much.
Good to see you. And stay tuned, everyone, on the New Stack Live. We've got more here from PagerDuty Summit at Pier 27 at the Embarcadero in San Francisco. I'm Scott Fulton with TC Curry. You've been listening to the New Stack Makers, sponsored today by PagerDuty. Learn how the PagerDuty Foundation supports community programs such as technology career coaching and talent recruitment at pagerduty.org. Listen to more episodes of the New Stack Makers at thenewstack.io/podcasts. And take a moment, please, rate and review us on iTunes and like us and follow us on YouTube. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.